Well, with the elections this past November, the citizens of Colorado and Washington state legalized recreational use of marijuana. So now what? I forgot what I was supposed to say next. I'm Bill Whittle filling in for Alan Barton. Stand by for the front page. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bill Whittle. Welcome to Doobie Fest. Joining me now to have some tough talk are Terry Jones of Investors Business Daily and John Phillips of KABC Radio. You're welcome. This is going to be an odd one. Anyway, gentlemen, as you probably know, smokers in Washington and Colorado are no doubt overjoyed to have their vice sanctioned by the state, but the winning ballot initiatives are only the first step in what will be an interesting legal journey that pits the states against the federal government. So let's kick things off with a somewhat optimistic statement made by Seattle District Attorney Pete Holmes.
There's every reason to believe that we can prevail upon federal authorities to show that rather than conflicting with federal law, these initiatives actually complement federal law. They're very carefully thought out initiatives that seek to regulate and control marijuana. It's not a simple pro-pot law.
That guy is like so completely high.
Yeah.
Did you see that, the plant in the background?
Yeah,
He's like
yeah.
growing his own support. All right, we're going to have to start taking this somewhat seriously. Terry, that statement was made towards the end of November, and we'll take a look at a statement made by the Justice Department in just a moment. But what do you think here? Do you think he's making a solid case? We really have an issue now where it really is going to be a state's issue versus a federal government issue on a law that's pretty controversial. Yeah. Do you think federalism is going to win, or do you think the feds are going to put their big boot down?
I think feds will put their big boot down, and not because they're against marijuana use, but because they're against states exercising individual rights as states to do things within their borders. But that said, I think Petey's dreaming here if he thinks this isn't going to clash with the federal government. I mean, it quite clearly does. It's contrary to what the federal government has said. The Controlled Substances Act basically outlaws marijuana as a controlled substance, and it's clearly against federal law. Whether they get away with it or not is another question.
John, this is almost kind of like it's almost like a conservative or libertarian virus. It's almost like in a way, it could be turned into almost like a dream, because what's really going on here is this is a way to make the case for federalism to people who never heard the term federalism, don't have any idea what the relationship between the states and the federal government is. This is actually kind of a sneaky way to get to people who've never heard these concepts before, isn't it?
Well, the best part is it has President Obama in a bit of a pickle.
Yes, it does.
Because whenever states do something that he disagrees with, he has no problem sending Eric Holder and the Justice Department in to shut them down, like he did with Arizona after SB 1070. Mm-hmm. But now you've got states like Washington that are going against the feds, but in policy areas where deep down I'm sure he agrees with them, whether or not he says it explicitly or not. Now he's going to have to decide whether or not he's going to act as the executive or he's going to act as Barack Obama, the politician.
Well, the Obama administration hasn't given a lot of clues to how they're going to deal with states passing laws that contravene federal law. But earlier this month, U.S. Attorney Jenny Durkin wrote the following statement, and this is a quote: "The department's responsibility to enforce the Controlled Substances Act remains unchanged. Neither states nor the executive branch can nullify a statute passed by Congress. In enacting the Controlled Substances Act, Congress determined that marijuana is a Schedule I controlled substance, regardless of any changes in state law, including the change that will go into effect on December 6th in Washington state. Growing, selling, or possessing any amount of marijuana remains illegal under federal law." Now, John, a few moments ago, you said this puts the Obama administration in a pickle, and it does. What's their pickle, and how do you think they're going to get out of it?
Well, whether or not they choose to enforce it. I mean, the law seems to be clear, even going by what the Obama administration is saying. But politically, his position, I believe, is disingenuous, just as his position on gay marriage was disingenuous and illegal immigration.
Are you saying President Choom has a false front going on this one?
Is there any doubt at all that he believes in the legalization of drugs? Okay.
None.
Just like, was there any doubt at all that he believed in gay marriage?
None.
Or that he does not believe in border control? Okay, so he's now in a situation where he's got to play the role of the president and not be the person who he is. The person who he is wants it to be legal, but he doesn't want to pick this fight because he doesn't want to spend his chits on marijuana. He wants to spend them in other places. So I think he's going to be a wussy, and I'd use the word that starts with a P, but I'm polite, so I won't. I think he's going to be a wussy about it and just go ahead and you know, make it Eric Holder's problem and sit on the ball.
Yeah, that's right. What do you think, Terry? How this really does present a conflict for the president. It's an image problem and a political problem if he enforces these laws. But I think, as we all agree, it is very, very important that the federal government's power not ever be weakened, and that the federal government does have the big boot here, right?
Yeah, and I think he's Machiavellian enough to understand his dilemma, because let's face it, yeah, he was a member of the Choom gang back in Hawaii, but he also knows that this is quite a popular thing. Pot legalization is supported by more than half of Americans, and I think he sees this as a real political issue for him and the Democrats, and yet at the same time he wants to maintain the authority of the federal government over the states. So it is a big problem for him, and I don't know how he's going to do it. I know that Jenny Durkin is the federal attorney in Washington State, and she delivered a fairly clear statement that she thinks this is still illegal. And I don't know if they're going to rein her in or pull her back, but I'll be interested to see how it develops.
Yeah, me too. Well, okay, it turns out that now that marijuana is legal, at least in those states, state lawmakers have to grapple with crafting policy to deal with this new reality. And one of those issues is public safety and driving under the influence. Now, in Colorado, politicians have twice tried and failed to pass a law making it illegal to drive with 5 nanograms or more of THC in one system. Nanograms, man. Now they're trying to put the bill through a third time, but opponents of the law are concerned. So let's take a listen to what attorney Sean McAllister says that he fears.
If we pass a hard-line standard, we're not going to go to trial in these cases anymore. It's going to change the standard so that the prosecution has the presumption of guilt instead of the defendant having the presumption of innocence.
John, 5 nanograms, I think, is 5/1 of a gram. Is there any chance that there'd be false positives with that kind of? We're not talking about, you know, percentages of blood alcohol. We're talking about extremely small amounts. We have very, very effective detectors. But seriously, 5 nanograms. If you're in the same room, you go to a pitch meeting in Hollywood, you could be busted driving home with 5 nanograms.
I mean, just from sitting next to his coat,
That's
I test positive here. Getting a little buzz going on.
Yeah, that's right.
But you know, look, I got a BA, I got a degree, couple of degrees in political science. What do I know about that? That's for scientists to decide. But I don't want people driving if they've just taken 2 Benadryl. I mean, if you're taking your Xanax or you're taking your Benadryl, stay out of the car. So figure out whatever it is that makes people impaired and make them sit at home and, I don't know, watch reruns of the Andy Griffith Show or whatever you do when you're bombed out of your mind.
Well, Andy Griffith, I always thought, well, certainly Barney. You know, as things,
for sure.
Some shows just turn out this way, folks. You know, as things stand right now, though, federally insured banks can't do business with anyone selling or distributing marijuana because of federal law. So do you think the free market's going to come up with a kind of a creative workaround for this thing, Terry? I mean, this is a very connected issue, isn't there? There's a lot of tendrils with this entire idea of the state's laws when they come into conflict with federal laws.
Yeah, absolutely. There will be a way found around this. Look, if you look at our banking system, there are already a black market banking system that exists worldwide that has control of about $36 trillion in assets. I mean, it's an enormous amount of money. So I'm sure this, you know, they'll work around this somehow.
What do you think that would look like, John?
Well, look, I mean, the problem is, and they've done this in Los Angeles, is they screw it up with how it's regulated. Right now, I have friends in the commercial real estate industry. They will not rent to these medical marijuana dispensaries because there's so much violence associated with these shops. Yeah, I mean, people come in with guns and they take the cash and they take the marijuana. It's a big problem. I just let groups like Walmart do it. I'd let Target do it. I'd let Walmart do what the U.S. government could never do, and that's put the drug cartels out of business in Mexico.
Yeah, that's right. You know, it's hard for most people in the rest of the country, I think, to understand what it looks like here in Los Angeles. And we didn't even get legalization in Los Angeles. We got decriminalization quite a while ago. And the little symbol for these medical marijuana shops is a little green cross, like the Red Cross, but it's green. And honestly, I think people from the rest of the country, if they drove down Ventura Boulevard or any street in Los Angeles, they would be utterly amazed at how many of these little clinics there are. I mean, they are more common by a factor of 3 than Starbucks. These things are everywhere. It's every 5th door on Ventura Boulevard is a medical marijuana shop. Is this the green economy that President Obama's been promising us, Terry?
It seems to be. You would think that marijuana was the miracle drug that could cure everything, given how many shops have opened up. But it is interesting to note, as John said, that every medical marijuana shop you drive by has a armed guard prominently stationed out front or in the window. And they do that because they are centers of crime.
Well, we'll wrap with this then, John. Why don't we close with this? They are centers of crime, and so doesn't this kind of swing the pendulum back away from the libertarian ideal of, look, it doesn't have anything to do with you. If you don't want to smoke marijuana, don't smoke marijuana. We're all free people, free adults. You should be able to go in and buy some weed if you want to. Doesn't the fact that there are so many of these shops here, even in California, where it's not legal yet, and the fact that they do, in fact, attract a lot of crime, it does make it my problem, doesn't it, when these things raise the crime rate in that neighborhood?
Well, I think it speaks more of government regulation than it does of that. I mean, I'm a small L libertarian that believes in the decriminalization of drugs. And my response would be government regulation is what created this problem. If you let Walmart do it or you let Target do it, they would do it right, and you'd bring the profit motive and you'd bring capitalists into the system. Right now, you just got a bunch of idiots running this program, and of course they're going to screw it up.
As opposed to the government. Just a bunch of idiots running this program. As a matter of fact, ladies and gentlemen, that's what should be on our money. The United States of America, just a bunch of idiots running this program. That's all we have time for today. For John and Terry, I'm Bill Whittle. You've been watching Front Page.